What's good guys, Tiger here, welcome to the channel. Today I have completed the next weapon on my road to Damascus, and it is the second LMG, the SA87. Now recently I've just completed the PKM, and honestly I really loved that weapon. I love the fact that you could take the stock off that weapon, you can put tons of buffs onto the ADS speed and recoil control, and the weapon is dominant. Now with this weapon, the SA86, I've used it a bit when playing gunfights, the 2v2 gunfight game mode, and I thought it was alright. I thought it was a bit of an interesting weapon. It only has 30 shots in the magazine, what is not a lot at all for a LMG. But then on the plus side, you do have a faster reload time considering how slow LMG reload times are. We all know that it's like game over when you need to reload. It just kills your momentum completely. However, overall, I wasn't a big fan of this weapon. But first, let's go over the class setup that I was using. And in all honesty, I think it is the best class setup in order to make this weapon half decent in my opinion. So I've got a barrel, reflex sight, stock, perk attachment and rear grip. Now the barrel, I had two options. I had both the 25.4 inch and the 18.2 inch. The main one that I was using was the 18 inch one, what gave me the ADS speed buff, movement speed buff, at the cost of recoil control and bullet velocity. However, when I wanted to go for those long shots as well as the mounted kills, as well as try and calm down that recoil, because that is a big problem that we'll get onto in a little bit, that is when I went for the slightly longer ranged barrel in order to try and patch over some of those weaknesses. And then with that barrel, you can see I'm getting a damage range buff, bullet velocity buff, recoil control, at the cost of ADS speed and movement speed. What kind of sounds like the type of attachment you would put on a light machine gun at the end of the day. Then I've just got a normal reflex sight. The monocle is actually one of my favourites because it gives you a good field of view when aiming down sight. I've gone for the stock that is giving me an ADS speed buff at the cost of aiming stability, what we all know means nothing. Sleight of hand, because even though that the reload speed is good for a light machine gun, it's still pretty slow considering you only have 30 shots in the magazine, what is very little. It's very few, and I really don't like that. So sleight of hand is really useful, especially if you're playing fast-paced shipment or shoot house or things like that. For ground war you might not need it, but if you're playing those fast game modes, sleight of hand is important. And then I've gone for the stippled grip tape, what is giving me the ADS speed buff, sprints to fire speed buff at the cost of aiming stability. So I think the class is fairly decent. I've got 2 to 3 buffs to aim down sight, what kind of makes it okay. When you're using the longer ranged barrel, the ADS speed does decrease quite a bit. And in my personal opinion, if I had to pick a better barrel, I do think the longer ranged barrel is better as it does suit this weapon, because its biggest problem, guys, is the recoil. The recoil control is really bad, and for me that is the big negative on this weapon. It really does stop this weapon being decent. If you're comparing it to the PKM or the M91, what I've recently just moved on to, the recoil controls are so good, and when you have a light machine gun, recoil control is something you want. It is something that really is make or break. And for me, this weapon really did just show that and make it very clear. But don't get me wrong, the damage on this weapon is insane. And you can see in some of the clips in the background, I'm doing fairly decent. I can get those long range shots if you are just shooting one bullet at a time. When I'm playing ground war, if I see someone at distance and they're standing still, just popping off one bullet at a time, burst firing your weapon, you can get a lot done. You can see it in the background. It really is possible and fairly easy. When you're using this weapon at medium range, that is when the recoil kicks in, and that is when you're going to miss your shots and just struggle against most weapons. I think this weapon is fairly decent at close range if you are already looking down sight. If you're not, then you might struggle. The hip fire for this weapon isn't the best, purely because the fire rate is a lot slower. It's a slower firing weapon. That is why it has a lot of recoil and very few bullets. If this was a fast firing weapon with 30 bullets, then this weapon would just be even worse than it already is. But overall, this weapon isn't the worst thing in the world. I just think that the other LMGs are so good, this one just stands out to be the worst in the category. Another thing that I want to mention, the attachment options aren't that great for this either. Like, I'm fairly happy with the attachments I've got, but considering some of the amazing attachments we had for the PKM, like having a no stock option, as well as having the snatch grip, what was hands down one of the best attachments in this game, I find it hard to buff this weapon's aim down sight while trying to maintain the recoil control as well. It's hard to buff both without having problems with one or the other. As for completing the challenges in order to get this gold, the Camo Challenges, they're fairly easy. I found it very easy to complete it for the PKM. That was one of the easiest weapons I've ever had to complete. This was okay, it was fairly easy, but this weapon really did make me fight for it. So I'm going to put all of the requirements on the screen now if you want to complete this weapon gold. They're fairly easy considering all of the other categories. The amounts that you need are fairly low. For example, only 65 crouch kills, 45 hipfire kills, long shots, only 45 mounted kills. That is a really, really big one, easy to complete. Only 75 kills with no attachments. You really should fly through these challenges if you're playing the right game modes. They're fairly easy to complete. And at the end of the day, it's not the worst gun in the world, but it is far from the best. Overall, I would rate this weapon, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. Actually, I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. I think 5 out of 10 is a fair rating because you can get things done with this weapon and you can melt people very fast with the high damage, but there's just too many problems for this to be a overall well-rounded weapon. Okay guys, so that is everything for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you think of this weapon and my class. Give your suggestions for a better class in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed and you want to see more, consider subscribing and turn on notifications to stay updated on all my latest content. But that's all from me. Take care and I'll see you in the next video.